In the autumn of 1940, Nazi Germany turned its full air power against the cities, ports, and people of Britain. For 57 consecutive nights, and hundreds more beyond that, the Luftwaffe came. They came for London, they came for Coventry, for Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, and dozens of towns in between. They came to break a nation's will. They failed. These are the photographs that prove it. We begin in Coventry, the morning of November 15th, 1940. The night before had been one of the most devastating single air raids ever carried out against a British city. 500 German bombers filled the sky for 11 hours without stopping. And when dawn came, this is what was left. A city bus, something so ordinary, so everyday, reduced to a crumpled shell of metal in the middle of what had been a busy city center. Around it, nothing but rubble as far as the eye can see. Coventry had ceased to exist as people knew it, in a single night. And yet, look up. Above the destruction, above the dust and the devastation, Holy Trinity Church still stands, battered, surrounded by ruin on every side, but standing. It had stood in Coventry since the 12th century. It had survived plagues, civil wars, and the slow grind of centuries. And it survived this. There is something almost defiant about the way it rises above the wreckage, as if the city itself is refusing to disappear. 2 days after the raid, the 14th century Cathedral of St. Michael, one of the great medieval churches of England, lies open to the sky. Its walls are standing, but its roof is gone, its interior gutted by fire. The surrounding buildings are unrecognizable. This image was seen around the world, and it did something the Nazis hadn't anticipated. Instead of demoralizing the British public, it enraged them. The ruins of Coventry Cathedral became a symbol not of defeat, but of what was being fought for. They still stand today, deliberately preserved, exactly as the bombs left them, as a permanent memorial and a warning. Somewhere in the wreckage of central Coventry, someone climbed the ruins of a bombed building and hung a Union flag. Nobody recorded who did it, or when exactly, or why. They didn't need to. The photograph says everything. When you have lost almost everything, you plant your flag in what's left. This image, more than almost any other from the Blitz, captures the spirit that Winston Churchill was trying to put into words every time he stood at a microphone. Broadgate, the commercial heart of Coventry. The morning after, shop fronts blown open, facades collapsed into the street, glass and timber everywhere. People would have walked this street the day before, shopping, working, going about their lives. By morning, it was a different world. What strikes you most in this photograph isn't the scale of the damage. It's how suddenly it all happened. One night. That's all it took. Now we go back to where it all began. September 7th, 1940. The first day of the Blitz. 2 German bombers, caught from the ground against a pale sky, fly over southeast London. Somewhere below them, people are looking up. Air raid sirens are screaming. This photograph is one of the only images that captures the German aircraft themselves over British soil in daylight. It is a chilling thing to look at. This is the moment the Blitz began. St. Paul's Cathedral. Christopher Wren's masterpiece sitting on Ludgate Hill above the city of London. A bomb penetrated the north transept, crashed through the floor, and detonated in the crypt below. The damage was severe. And yet the dome, that great dome that defined the London skyline, survived. During the worst nights of the Blitz, fire watchers stationed on the roof risked their lives to extinguish incendiary bombs before they could take hold. The image of St. Paul's standing amid the smoke and flames became the defining symbol of London's resistance. This photograph shows just how close it came to being lost forever. The Blitz was not only London's story. December 23, 1940. Manchester is on fire. The German bombers had targeted the city's industrial base and its vital rail connections. What they hit were homes, shops, churches, and ordinary streets. The Christmas Blitz on Manchester killed almost 700 people over 2 nights. Families were preparing for Christmas. Instead, they spent it in shelters, listening to their city burn above them. This image has become one of the most iconic photographs of the entire Blitz, and when you see it, you understand why. A London double-decker bus has fallen nose first into a massive crater in Balham High Road, South London. A German bomb had struck a water main directly beneath the street, and the road simply collapsed. The bus followed. Below, in the underground station beneath the street, over 600 people had been sheltering. 66 of them were killed. The bus became a symbol of how total and how indiscriminate this war had become. This is what survival looked like for hundreds of thousands of Londoners. Elephant and Castle Underground Station, November 1940. People of all ages, wrapped in coats and blankets, carrying whatever they could, packed onto the platforms and the tracks each night as the bombers came overhead. At the height of the Blitz, more than 170,000 people sheltered in London's underground stations every single night. They slept on the platforms, on the stairs, in the tunnels. They told stories, they sang, they kept each other calm. This was civilian resilience not as a slogan, but as a nightly reality. Queen's Road, Aston, Birmingham. December 11th, 1940. An entire row of houses has been reduced to timber and rubble, except one. A single badly damaged house still stands in the middle of the wreckage, its neighbors gone on both sides. It looks almost embarrassed to be upright. Birmingham was targeted heavily throughout the Blitz for its role as an industrial and manufacturing center. Thousands of its residents lost their homes. Some lost everything, and some, inexplicably, still had one wall standing. The work didn't stop when the bombs did. Here, troops of the 9th Battalion, the Hampshire Regiment, are clearing bomb damage in Hull, a city that suffered one of the highest proportions of destruction of any British city during the war, yet whose suffering was largely suppressed in contemporary news coverage for fear of damaging morale. Soldiers, civilians, and emergency workers spent countless hours in the wreckage. Not fighting, but digging, clearing, rebuilding. The unglamorous, exhausting work of keeping a city alive. Oxford Street, London, September 1940. The John Lewis department store has been hit, and its window displays, mannequins dressed in the latest fashions, have been blasted out onto the pavement. They lie scattered across the street like fallen figures, dressed impeccably, completely undisturbed. It is one of the most surreal images of the entire Blitz. The mundane and the catastrophic colliding in a single frame. John Lewis would be almost completely destroyed before the Blitz was over. It was rebuilt. It is still there today. People slept where they could. Churches, shelters, stations, cellars. This man, photographed in an East London church in November 1940, has found perhaps the most unlikely bed imaginable. A medieval stone sarcophagus. He is fast asleep. Around him, the church shows signs of blast damage. And he sleeps. There's something profound about this image that is very difficult to put into words. History, stone cold beneath him, the present, fragile and uncertain above. Stop. Look at this one carefully. A young boy, he cannot be more than 7 or 8 years old, is pressing a small Union flag into the rubble of what was his home. His house has been destroyed in an air raid. He has lost everything a child considers permanent and safe, and his response, whether instinctive or taught or simply copied from the adults around him, is to plant his flag. If there is a single image that defines what Britain meant by refusing to surrender, this is it. March 1941. The Blitz reaches Scotland. Glasgow and the neighboring town of Clydebank are hit over 2 nights of relentless bombing, despite being far from the Luftwaffe's main air bases in occupied Europe. Glasgow absorbs more than 900 tons of bombs and incendiaries. In Clydebank alone, a town of roughly 50,000 people, 35,000 are made homeless. Only 7 houses in the entire town are left undamaged. 7. In Clydebank, there is almost nowhere left to go home to. A panoramic view of Liverpool taken in 1942, showing the scale of the destruction visited on Britain's most important Atlantic port. Liverpool was the lifeline through which food, weapons, and supplies from America and the Commonwealth flowed into Britain. The Germans knew it and they bombed it relentlessly. Nearly 3,000 tons of high explosive and 300 tons of incendiaries fell on the city. On the skyline, rising above the devastation, the twin towers of the Royal Liver Building stand untouched. Liverpool took everything the Luftwaffe could throw at it and kept the port open. The Atlantic lifeline never broke. Manchester Piccadilly, the beating heart of the city, ablaze after German air raids. The fires were so fierce on the worst nights that they could be seen from miles away, and crews from surrounding towns were called in to help fight them. In scenes like this one, firefighters worked through the night, not knowing if the bombers would return, not knowing if the building they were fighting to save would still be standing by morning. Many weren't. And then there is this. In the middle of all of it, the rubble, the fires, the sleepless nights, the grief, someone set up a food cart. And on the side of that cart, they painted a sign that reads, "Hitler's bombs can't beat us." People are queuing, buying food, getting on with it. This is not propaganda manufactured in a government office. This is a person who lost their shop or their kitchen or their neighborhood, who set up a cart in the street and decided to feed people anyway. This photograph, is more than almost any other, explains why the Blitz failed. You know the phrase. Everyone does. It has been printed on mugs and tote bags and tea towels, to the point where its original power has almost been forgotten. But here it is. The real thing, displayed during the war itself, in the context it was made for. The poster was produced by the British government in 1939 as a last resort, to be distributed only if Germany actually invaded. Most copies were pulped. A small number survived. And here in this photograph, we see it doing exactly the job it was designed for. Not irony, not interior decoration. An instruction given to a frightened people in a frightened time. The Milkman. London, 1940. He's picking his way through the rubble of a bombed street, bottles in hand, making his deliveries. His round has not changed. His customers still need their milk. The city around him has been partially destroyed. He is delivering milk. This photograph became famous because it captured something the British public instinctively recognized in themselves. The refusal, sometimes bloody-minded and almost irrational, to let catastrophe interrupt the ordinary rhythms of life. Keep going. Keep the milk coming. Hitler can wait, because even war needs a tea break. Workers at the National Archives, the people responsible for preserving Britain's most important historical documents while bombs fell around them, have stepped outside for a game of cricket. They are wearing their gas masks. The game is entirely serious. This photograph is funny and absurd and quietly magnificent all at once. It is the British sense of humor meeting the British sense of duty and shaking hands. If you wanted to understand in a single image why Germany could not break this country's spirit, this might be it. October 23rd, 1940. Holland House in Kensington, one of London's great historic mansions, has been gutted by bombing. Its library, with thousands of volumes, lies open to the sky, its walls reduced to scorched brick. And 3 men are standing in the ruins, browsing the shelves. Just browsing, choosing books from a destroyed library as though they are in a perfectly ordinary bookshop on a perfectly ordinary afternoon. This photograph has become one of the most enduring images of the Blitz, because it says something about what people reach for when everything else is taken away. Not food, not safety. Books. Buckingham Palace was hit 9 times during the Blitz. 9 times. And each time, King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, rather than retreating to the safety of the countryside, stayed in London, walked the damage, and were seen doing so. Here, the King and Queen picked their way through the rubble of their own home. Queen Elizabeth famously said that being bombed made her feel she could finally look the East End in the face. The monarchy's decision to remain in London during the Blitz was one of the most significant morale decisions of the entire war. This photograph is the proof of it. We close on this. The King of England, standing in the East End of London, September 1940. He is leaning down to shake the hand of a small girl. Her father ran a school here. The school was bombed. She is still standing. And the king has come to find her, to see her, to shake her hand. Not for the cameras, or not only for the cameras, but because this is what leadership looked like in 1940. Not speeches from distant rooms, showing up, standing in the rubble, looking a child in the eye and letting her know that the country sees her and has not forgotten her and will not stop fighting for her. The Blitz lasted from September 1940 to May 1941. More than 43,000 British civilians were killed. Over 1 million homes were damaged or destroyed, and Britain did not surrender. Not for a single day. These photographs are why we remember.